A ring of silent stones holds a secret older than history itself. For thousands of years, we called them primitive temples or simple memorial sites. The truth is far more incredible. These monuments were cosmic clockworks, precise astronomical machines carved from the living Earth. This journey will reveal the sophisticated science of prehistoric observatories, giving you a new lens to see human ingenuity and our ancient place in the stars. We will uncover how a single shaft of solstice light could transform a dark tomb into a calendar, and why entire landscapes were engineered to mirror the heavens. What does the silent language of these stones say about our need to understand the sky? For a farmer 10,000 years ago, the sky was not a distant spectacle, but the most vital tool for survival. The precise moment to plant seeds before the spring rains, the signal to move herds to summer pastures, and the warning to gather stores before winter's arrival were all written in the silent movement of celestial bodies. This was the original living calendar, a dynamic system where time was measured not in abstract numbers but in the predictable rhythm of light, shadow, and season. The sun's journey along the horizon shifted day by day, reaching its northernmost point at summer solstice, a day of maximum light, and its southernmost at winter solstice, the long night's turning point. The moon's phases dictated tidal rhythms and offered a shorter 29-day cycle. Even the stars, rising and setting at different times throughout the year, served as seasonal markers. This profound understanding of cyclical time is what archaeoastronomers like Clive Ruggles describe not as abstract science, but as a deeply integrated, practical knowledge woven into the very fabric of daily life. The monuments we find were the physical embodiment of this knowledge. They were designed to capture a single, fleeting moment of celestial alignment, transforming an immense, moving sky into a fixed, local event. This practice is often called horizon astronomy, where the rising or setting of a body against a specific notch on a distant hill becomes a reliable annual alarm clock. A powerful example shines at Fajada Butte in Choco Canyon. There, on a high cliff face, ancient artists carved spiral petroglyphs. For most of the year, they are simply elegant symbols. But on the summer solstice, a slender dagger of sunlight, perfectly channeled through gaps in the rock, slices directly through the heart of the largest spiral. In that instant, the architecture of the landscape and the motion of the sun combine to declare unmistakably the year's pivotal day. It is a perfect fusion of art, engineering, and celestial observation. In our modern world, where atomic clocks define time down to the nanosecond, we might reflect on what has been gained and what has been gently set aside. We have unparalleled precision, but have we lost that visceral, embodied connection to the cycles that once dictated the rhythm of human existence? This intimate dance with the cosmos required not just observation, but extraordinary minds to translate it into stone. The scale of their ambition becomes tangible when you consider a single bluestone at Stonehenge. To bring one 25-ton pillar from the Preseli Hills in Wales to Salisbury Plain was a journey of over 150 miles. This was not the work of a lone visionary but a sustained communal vow enacted over generations. It speaks of a society that could plan on a century-long scale, where knowledge was not written but woven into song, story, and ritual, passed carefully from elder to child. These were the Neolithic engineer astronomers, anonymous planners whose legacy is etched in earth and stone. They operated without blueprints, yet their work reveals a masterful synthesis of skills. They were empirical observers, tracking the sun and moon for decades to pinpoint key alignments. They were surveyors, using simple tools like wooden stakes and hemp ropes to lay out vast, precise geometries on uneven ground. They were master masons, shaping multi-ton stones with nothing harder than stone hammers and patient abrasion. Scholar Gerald Hawkins, analyzing Stonehenge in the 1960s, was among the first to controversially suggest it functioned as a kind of computational device for predicting lunar eclipses. While some of his specific claims are debated, his core insight revolutionized our view, framing these sites as intentional astronomical instruments. This perspective is deepened by understanding the oral traditions required to preserve such precise knowledge. A solstice alignment is not useful if it is forgotten in 50 years. It requires a cultural memory disciplined enough to maintain the integrity of an observation across centuries. A stunning example of this precision is found not in a circle, but in a mound. Newgrange in Ireland is a massive 5,000-year-old passage tomb. Above its entrance, the builders engineered a narrow opening called a roof box. For just 17 minutes at dawn around the winter solstice, a beam of sunlight travels up the dark, 60-foot-long passageway to illuminate the central chamber. This was not a happy accident. It is the result of exacting astronomical observation, architectural planning, and a profound desire to symbolically reconnect with the cycle of rebirth at the year's darkest point. So we must ask, what does this multi-generational commitment reveal? It tells us that understanding their place in the cosmic order was of supreme value, worth immense collective effort. It argues for a sophisticated intellectual capacity, one that could translate the fluid motion of the heavens into the fixed, monumental language of the earth. With a clearer sense of the builders, we can now step inside their ultimate tool and see how it functioned. Standing in the center of a perfect stone circle at dawn is to become the focal point of a vast, silent instrument. The stones are not a random audience but a precisely arranged orchestra, each member positioned to catch a specific note of light from the rising sun or moon. This geometry, aligning perfectly with the distant horizon, transforms the space from a simple enclosure into a calibrated observational device. It was the pioneering work of engineer Alexander Thom in the mid-20th century that first quantified this precision on a grand scale. Surveying hundreds of sites across Britain and France, Thom proposed that the builders used a standardized unit of measurement he called the megalithic yard, roughly 2.72 of our feet. Whether this exact unit is universally accepted or not, his research strongly suggests a widespread, sophisticated understanding of geometry and a shared technical language across vast distances. These builders were not just stacking rocks, they were employing complex shapes with clear intent. While we see circles, Thom documented many rings as precise ellipses or even intricate egg-shaped formations. Each shape was not an aesthetic choice but an engineering solution, creating specific internal sightlines to celestial events that a simple circle could not achieve. To understand how they worked, think of the simplest form of alignment, a foresight and a backsight. A tall stone, the backsight, stands at the circle's edge. When you stand at a specific marker stone at the circle's center, you look past this backsight, and your gaze is directed like a rifle sight toward a low notch on the far horizon, the foresight. On one precise morning each year, the sun would rise in that exact notch, its first flash of light framed perfectly by the stone gateway. This turns an immense celestial motion into a local, reproducible event. Different circles were tuned to different rhythms of the sky. Solar circles, like the famous phase of Stonehenge, are aligned to the solstices, the sun's extreme north and south rising points. Lunar observatories, however, track a far more complex and subtle cycle. A powerful example stands on the windswept Isle of Lewis in Scotland, the Callanish stones. Here, the stones form a cross-shaped pattern with a central circle. Their primary alignment is not to the sun, but to the moon's most dramatic event, the lunar major standstill. This occurs only once every 18.6 years, when the Moon, at its furthest declination, seems to skim along the southern horizon, almost grazing the hills before setting. The long avenue of stones at Callanish points directly to this rare, low moonset. For a culture that tracked this cycle, it represented the pinnacle of lunar knowledge, a slow, majestic clock tick that required generations of careful observation to comprehend fully. So if a stone circle is a kind of frozen algorithm, a permanent equation set in stone, what cosmic calculations were our ancestors trying to solve? Were they simply predicting seasons, or were they seeking something deeper, a harmonic connection between the earthly and the celestial? To find an answer, we must realize these instruments were likely not isolated. The stones themselves were only part of a far grander instrument. The true observatory was the entire landscape. This is the principle of sacred geography, where rivers, mountains, and valleys were not just scenery but active components in a cosmic design. Ancient planners saw the earth itself as a canvas, etching their understanding of the heavens onto it by positioning monuments in precise relationship to the natural world. This required a concept known as intervisibility, where sites were placed within clear lines of sight to one another, creating a vast, silent network of alignments across miles of countryside. It suggests a society that did not think in terms of isolated temples, but of a connected, living map. Landscape archaeology helps us see this web. A man-made hill like Silbury Hill in England, the largest prehistoric mound in Europe, was not just a mound. Its conical shape, visible for miles, likely served as a giant surveyor's mark or a symbolic focal point within a ritual landscape. Similarly, the Uffington White Horse, a colossal figure carved into a chalk hillside, may have been positioned to be seen from specific pathways or to align with celestial events from certain vantage points. These were not decorations, they were permanent, panoramic signposts. This idea of landscape alignment often brings to mind the controversial concept of ley lines, popularized as mysterious energy paths connecting ancient sites. While that mystical interpretation lacks scientific support, a more rigorous version holds true. Archaeoastronomers document genuine, intentional alignments where monuments, often built centuries apart, are positioned to create sightlines to other monuments or to key horizon points for solar or lunar events. These are not random. Consider the Neolithic Cursus monuments, long, parallel earthwork enclosures that can stretch for miles across the countryside. Their function remains debated, but their sheer length and orientation often point directly towards significant ceremonial sites or horizon markers, acting like colossal processional ways that physically guide movement and vision across the sacred terrain. This practice of aligning architecture to the cardinal directions reaches a stunning peak with the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its sides are oriented to true north, south, east, and west with an accuracy of less than 1/10 of a degree. This was not an Egyptian innovation in isolation, but a global expression of the same impulse to anchor human creation to the fundamental axis of the cosmos. So we must ask a profound question. Were monuments like Stonehenge or Newgrange standalone devices, or were they individual nodes in a continent-wide cognitive map of the heavens? If the landscape itself was the observatory, then walking the old pathways between sites might have been a way of tracing celestial patterns with your feet, of physically journeying through a model of the sky. This expansive view forces us to look up from the earth and ask, what specific celestial drama were these vast instruments built to witness? The longest day of the year holds a stillness that feels eternal. For prehistoric cultures, the summer solstice was not just a calendar date, it was a moment of maximum power, a promise fulfilled, and a peak from which the sun would begin its long retreat. Its opposite, the winter solstice, was a day of profound hope, the turning point where light began its slow, victorious return. These solar standstills, where the sun appears to halt its journey along the horizon before reversing course, became the most powerful and universally marked events in the prehistoric world. As historian John North meticulously documented, hundreds of monuments across Europe are precisely oriented to capture the first or last light of these pivotal days. This was not casual observation, it was targeted architecture. The principle is elegantly direct. A monument's central axis, often defined by a long passageway or an alignment of stones, is carefully constructed to point toward the exact spot on the horizon where the sun rises on the summer solstice or sets on the winter solstice. On that one morning or evening each year, the celestial mechanics and the human-built environment synchronize perfectly. A beam of light travels the length of a dark corridor or slips precisely between two towering pillars, creating a dramatic spectacle of illumination that transforms the space. This is the solstitial alignment in action, a built-in alarm clock for the cosmic year. While the solstices, with the sun at its extreme northern and southern limits, are relatively straightforward to mark over time, the equinoxes presented a greater challenge. These are the 2 days in spring and autumn when day and night are of equal length, and the sun rises due east and sets due west. Pinpointing this exact day requires more nuanced observation, as the sun's position changes rapidly around that time. Some sites, like the elaborate cairn at Loughcrew in Ireland, are believed to capture the equinox sunrise, with light flooding a specific chamber only on those mornings. The architectural features designed for these events are marvels of intentionality. A heel stone placed just outside a circle to catch the solstice sunrise, a roof box engineered over an entrance to channel a narrow beam, a passageway angled with exacting precision, all speak to a deep desire to physically interact with these celestial turning points. A masterclass in this solar architecture is found in the Orkney Islands at the chambered tomb of Maeshowe. This massive grass-covered mound, older than the pyramids, contains a long, low entrance passage. For most of the year, the interior is a place of deep shadow, but for a few days around the winter solstice, the setting sun aligns perfectly with this passageway. Its last low rays travel straight down the corridor for over 30 feet to strike the rear wall of the central chamber, bathing the farthest, most sacred space in a golden light. This was clearly no accident. It was a calculated, breathtaking fusion of astronomy, engineering, and symbolism, designed to bring the promise of the sun's return into the very heart of a resting place. So we must ask, why did cultures separated by oceans and millennia, from the builders of Maeshowe to the astronomers of Choco Canyon, independently choose to monumentalize these same solar events? The answer lies in their universal human resonance. The solstices and equinoxes are the fundamental heartbeat of our planet, governing the cycles of growth, harvest, migration, and survival. To build a temple that captures that heartbeat in stone is to assert a profound connection, to say, we understand the rhythm of the world and we have anchored our place within it. Yet, if the sun provided the steady, reliable rhythm of the year, the moon offered a far more complex and mysterious melody, one that required an even more sophisticated kind of timekeeping. The moon moves to a far more mysterious rhythm than the sun. While our star marks the reliable cadence of the year, the moon offers a complex 18.6-year melody, a cycle that unfolds slower than a single human generation. To track it required a different kind of patience and a deeper, more esoteric knowledge. Picture the eerie, silver light of a full moon rising perfectly between two ancient pillars, an event that might only be witnessed once in a lifetime from that exact spot. This is the lunar standstill, the moon's most extreme rising and setting points on the horizon, north and south. Archaeologists like the late Aubrey Burrell dedicated their work to uncovering these subtle alignments in British stone circles, arguing that many sites were tuned not to the sun, but to this long, slow celestial clock. The challenge was immense. The moon's path is a wobble superimposed on the sun's, creating a minor and a major standstill. Predicting these extreme points required observers to note the moon's position against the same horizon notch year after year, decade after decade, waiting for the pattern to complete its grand, almost 2-decade-long circuit. It was astronomy played out on a generational scale. Certain monuments appear designed as giant calculators for this very purpose. The vast parallel stone rose at Carnac in France. Thousands of menhirs stretching across the landscape may have functioned as a colossal observational grid. By sighting along different rows toward the horizon, keepers of knowledge could track the moon's shifting extreme positions, using the stones as fixed reference points in a slow-moving celestial equation. This long-term tracking was often intertwined with powerful symbolism. In many prehistoric cultures, the moon was intimately associated with cycles of fertility, the measurement of time in months, and often with feminine or ancestral principles. The Noath Passage tomb in Ireland, a sister site to Newgrange, provides a stunning case. Its massive curbstones are carved with elaborate spirals, lozenges, and radiating lines, iconography that many researchers interpret as lunar symbolism, mapping the phases and cycles of the moon onto the very stones that guard a resting place. This connection hints at a profound belief system. Tracking a cycle longer than a single life was not merely a practical calendar for planting. It was a sacred duty that linked the living to the rhythms of the cosmos and the memory of those who came before. It was a way to commune with time itself. So we must ask, what profound need drove this multi-generational effort? Was it to predict tides or to mark ceremonial dates? Or was it something more, a deep mythological imperative to understand the inconstant silver companion that ruled the night, a being that died and was reborn every month? To master its longest cycle was to demonstrate a harmony with the deepest patterns of the universe, a knowledge that cemented the authority of the keepers and the spiritual coherence of the community. While the moon wandered its complex path, there was a realm of even greater constancy, a backdrop of fixed lights that offered a different kind of map entirely. Beneath the wandering moon and the steady sun lies a deeper, more constant clockwork. On a clear, moonless night at a remote stone circle, the sky transforms. The familiar constellations are there, but the true spectacle is the Milky Way, a shimmering river of light arching overhead in breathtaking clarity. For cultures without artificial light, this was not just a pretty sight, it was a dynamic map and a precise calendar. Cultural astronomers studying indigenous traditions worldwide reveal a profound truth, that star knowledge was as vital as solar knowledge. The Navajo, for instance, used the position of certain star groups to dictate the timing of ceremonies. It is a compelling clue that similar, sophisticated stellar lore almost certainly existed in prehistoric Europe, woven into the very placement of the stones we study today. The most practical application of this knowledge was the heliacal rising of a star. This is when a bright star, after being hidden by the sun's glare for months, makes its first brief appearance in the eastern sky just before dawn. This annual event became a supremely reliable signal. The heliacal rising of the star Sirius in ancient Egypt famously heralded the flooding of the Nile, the lifeblood of the civilization. In the Mediterranean, the dawn appearance of the Pleiades star cluster marked the start of the sailing season and the time for planting. A stone alignment that pointed to the horizon point where a key star first appeared would act as a fixed, local alarm for that event, translating a celestial phenomenon into a community-wide signal. This idea extends to the concept of star paths. Just as a monument's axis might align to a solstice sunrise, other sightlines could be fixed upon the rising or setting point of a significant star or constellation. By creating a permanent backsight and foresight on the ground, the builders could freeze that moment in the landscape, ensuring that every generation would know exactly where to look for the celestial herald of spring or autumn. Proving these stellar alignments, however, presents a unique challenge called precession. the Earth's axis slowly wobbles like a spinning top over a cycle of 26,000 years. This means the position where a star rises on the horizon shifts imperceptibly over centuries. An alignment that was perfect 3,000 years ago would be slightly off today, making definitive archaeological proof difficult. This brings us to one of the most famous and debated celestial correlations, the alignment of the three main pyramids of Giza with the three stars of Orion's belt. Popularized by researchers like Robert Bovell, the idea suggests the pyramid layout mirrors the constellation's pattern as it appeared around 2500 BCE. While many mainstream Egyptologists caution against overstating the precision of this match, the symbolic power of the idea is undeniable. It speaks to a deep, enduring human desire to create a mirror of the heavens on Earth, to anchor our greatest achievements to the timeless patterns above. This leads us to a captivating question. Did our ancestors look up and see more than just points of light? Did they connect those dots into pictures, stories of great hunters, bears, swans, and gods playing out an eternal drama overhead? If so, then building monuments to mirror those constellations was not merely practical timekeeping. It was an act of profound ceremony and cosmology. It was a way to bring the stories of the gods down to earth, to walk within their patterns, and to affirm humanity's role within a living, storied cosmos. The silent stones, then, might not just be counting days, but reciting an epic poem written in starlight. The true power of these cosmic clockworks was not unlocked by a lone astronomer, but by an entire community gathered in the dark. Picture the final hours before a winter solstice dawn at a place like Newgrange. The air is biting cold, the world is silent and dark. Inside the Great Mound, dozens, perhaps hundreds of people are packed into the central chamber, their breath visible in the chill. The only light comes from the flickering flames of small oil lamps, casting dancing shadows that make the spiral carvings on the walls seem to move. A low, rhythmic chant fills the space, its sound amplified by the stone. There is a palpable, collective anticipation, a shared focus on the dark mouth of the entrance passage. This was not a sterile scientific observation. It was a supreme ritual performance, a theater where architecture, astronomy, and human emotion fused into one profound experience. Anthropologist Mircea Eliade described such sacred sites as an axis mundi, a world axis or center point believed to connect the earthly realm with the heavens above and the realms below. The stone circle, the burial mound, the towering pyramid, each served as this cosmic pivot. By gathering there at the precise celestial moment, the community positioned itself at the very heart of the universe, participating directly in the turning of the great wheel. The architecture was the stage, meticulously designed to choreograph this participation. The long, narrow passageway did not just channel light, it controlled movement and focus. To enter, you had to leave the open world behind, crouch down, and move single file into the earth, a symbolic journey into another state of being. Once inside, the chamber itself forced intimacy and collective attention. All eyes were inevitably drawn toward the entrance, the only source of the awaited light. The entire design served to heighten sensory experience and direct it toward a single, transformative climax, the moment the sun's ray pierced the darkness. We find material echoes of these gatherings in the archaeological record. At sites like Durrington Walls near Stonehenge, excavations have revealed vast quantities of animal bones, evidence of enormous seasonal feasts that would have accompanied the rituals. Offerings from finely crafted tools to simple, polished pebbles have been found placed in crevices or buried near sacred stones. These were not casual picnics, they were acts of communal investment and sacred exchange, reinforcing social bonds and affirming a shared cosmic contract. Even sound was part of the instrument. The Hypogeum of Halsaflieni in Malta, a remarkable underground complex carved from solid limestone around 5,000 years ago, demonstrates this intentionally. Certain of its small, oval chambers possess extraordinary acoustic properties. A voice spoken in them resonates at a specific frequency, creating a haunting, reverberating effect that seems to fill the entire space. Researchers suggest this was not an accident, but a designed feature to enhance ritual chanting or invocation, making the human voice sound otherworldly, as if it emerged from the stone itself. So we must reflect on a deeper purpose. In these rituals, was the community merely watching the sun return, or were they, through their focused presence, their chants, and their offerings, actively participating in its renewal? They were not passive observers of time, they were essential actors in its perpetuation. By correctly performing the ceremony at the exact moment ordained by the sky, they believed they helped maintain the cosmic order, ensuring the sun would indeed turn back, the seasons would continue, and life would endure. This ritual function carried immense social power, legitimizing the keepers of the knowledge and unifying the community around a shared, sacred reality. Yet, this profound connection between sky, stone, and society did not vanish with the last stone set in place. A great shift was coming, one that would challenge this ancient, embodied science and redefine humanity's relationship with the cosmos forever. The first ray of solstice light did more than illuminate a dark chamber, it conferred a sacred authority. In that precise, predicted moment, the figure positioned to witness it, be they a priest, an elder, or a keeper of knowledge, became the living bridge between the people and the cosmic order. This was the ultimate source of social power in the prehistoric world. To control the calendar was to control everything, the exact days for planting and harvest, the timing of essential communal gatherings, and the schedule of all religious festivals. The individual or group who could declare with absolute certainty that the sun had turned back or the moon had reached its standstill held the keys to survival and spiritual legitimacy. Archaeologists like Timothy Darville have proposed that sites like Stonehenge functioned as centers of healing and pilgrimage, places where the perceived power of the sun and moon, channeled through the stones, attracted people from across the land. In such a setting, the authority derived from astronomical precision translated directly into immense social and political influence, drawing tribute, labor, and devotion. This power was rooted in a specialized knowledge so demanding it would have created its own exclusive class. Becoming an astronomer priest was not a casual pursuit. It required a lifetime of patient observation, the memorization of complex cycles longer than a human life, and the geometric skill to translate that celestial data into monumental architecture. This knowledge was not written in books but held in memory, passed down through initiations within a select group. Their expertise made them indispensable, the sole interpreters of the sky's silent language. The economic reality of building these cosmic clockworks reveals the scale of this organized power. To move a single sarsen stone for Stonehenge required the coordinated labor of hundreds of people for months, all needing to be fed, housed, and directed. This points to a society capable of remarkable centralized organization, where resources could be marshaled and vast workforces mobilized, likely under the guidance and inspiration of that knowledgeable elite. A compelling parallel emerges far across the Atlantic at Choco Canyon in the American Southwest. Here, between the 9th and 12th centuries, an intricate society constructed monumental great houses like Pueblo Bonito, with walls and windows aligned to solar and lunar cycles. The canyon became a ceremonial center for a vast region. The leading families who orchestrated the grand ceremonies tied to these astronomical events were legitimizing their rule, using their connection to the cosmos to reinforce social hierarchy and manage the distribution of resources across a challenging landscape. Their authority was literally baked into the architecture, with certain rooms aligned to capture rare lunar light, perhaps accessible only to them. This pattern invites a reflective and difficult question. Were these magnificent cosmic clockworks ultimately tools for unifying society around a shared celestial story? or were they instruments for consolidating the influence and control of a privileged few? The truth likely lies in the subtle space between. The knowledge required to build them was genuine and profound, offering real benefits to the community in the form of a reliable calendar. Yet the control of that knowledge and the spectacular rituals it enabled would have inevitably concentrated immense soft power in the hands of the keepers. This intricate blend of genuine science, spiritual belief, and social management points to a surprising sophistication in Neolithic societies, where understanding the stars was inseparable from steering the course of human community. Yet the authority of the astronomer priests rested on a hidden foundation, one far more precise than myth or ritual alone. It was a silent language of numbers and angles, a mathematical sophistication we often reserve for the Greeks or Babylonians. Picture instead a Neolithic surveyor on a windswept plain, using nothing more than wooden pegs and a length of hemp rope. By marking a point, stretching the rope taut, and walking a fixed distance, they could inscribe a perfect circle upon the earth. But their geometry went far beyond simple rings. The pioneering surveys of Alexander Thom revealed a startling truth, that many stone circles are not circles at all, but precise ellipses, flattened circles, and even egg-shaped complexes. To construct these shapes requires an intuitive yet profound grasp of constants like pi and the subtle ratios that define curves. These builders were not just placing stones, they were solving intricate geometrical problems on a monumental scale. Their methods were elegantly practical. To create a perfect right angle, essential for aligning a monument to the cardinal directions, they likely used simple integer ratios. A rope knotted in segments of 5, 12, and 13 units, when stretched into a triangle, automatically forms a right angle opposite the longest side. This is a Pythagorean triple, a cornerstone of geometry, being applied millennia before Pythagoras was born. Thom's controversial proposal of a widespread standard unit, the megalithic yard of about 2.72 feet, further suggests a shared technical language, a common rule of measure that allowed distant communities to collaborate on a shared cosmic vision. This mathematical thinking extended into numerology, embedding cosmic cycles into the architecture itself. The 56 Aubrey holes at Stonehenge are a famous puzzle. This number is not arbitrary. It is a multiple of the lunar cycle and can be used to track eclipses. Similarly, the number 19 holds celestial power, representing the Metonic cycle, the 19 years it takes for the solar and lunar calendars to realign. Finding these numbers encoded in a monument is like finding the technical specifications for a clock built into its foundation. The geometric triumph of the Sarsen circle at Stonehenge makes this tangible. Each of the 30 uprights had to be carefully shaped, not as rectangles but as subtle trapezoids wider at the top. The lintels resting upon them were curved, each one a segment of a gigantic ring. To dress these multi-ton stones so they fit together, creating a continuous, level circle in the sky, required an astonishing command of three-dimensional geometry and mensuration. It was architectural mathematics of the highest order. This forces us to ask a profound question. Without a written number system, how was this complex knowledge of ratios, cycles, and shapes encoded and transmitted across hundreds of miles and generations? The answer lies in the oral tradition, in chants, stories, and ritual practices that acted as living algorithms. The knowledge was performed, not merely recorded, passed down through initiates who learned by doing, by stretching the sacred ropes and reciting the counts that defined their world. This hidden mathematics was never an abstract pursuit. It was the essential, applied tool for a singular, grand project, to build a machine that could map the fluid river of time onto the fixed bedrock of the Earth. Their mastery of geometry reveals a mind capable of thinking in vast cycles, but to what end? A society that could predict an eclipse or track the wanderings of Venus possessed more than a simple farming calendar. they held a model of time itself. This is the realm of prehistoric calendrical systems, where the solar year, the lunar month, and the stellar seasons were woven into a single, coherent cosmic clock. It was an intellectual achievement of staggering depth, born from the need to harmonize the conflicting rhythms of the heavens. The most common solution across the ancient world was the lunisolar calendar. A purely lunar calendar of 12 months, about 354 days, quickly falls out of sync with the 365-day solar year, causing seasonal festivals to drift. To correct this, cultures learned to intercalate, to insert an extra month every few years, a leap month that kept the lunar cycles aligned with the solar seasons. This was not guesswork. It required monuments that could track both bodies with precision, providing the observational data to know exactly when that corrective month was needed. A breathtaking artifact makes this abstract system tangible. The Nebra sky disk, a Bronze Age metal plate found in Germany dating to around 1600 BC, is considered the world's oldest known portable depiction of the cosmos. On its surface, a gold sun and a crescent moon sail amidst a field of stars, with a specific cluster representing the Pleiades. Arcs along its edge are believed to mark the solstitial sunrises and sunsets. This was not jewelry, it was a sophisticated, handheld instrument, a physical model of the sky used to calculate dates and perhaps even to teach the complex rules of a lunisolar calendar to new generations of timekeepers. But some cultures looked beyond the annual dance of sun and moon. They conceived of time in grand epochs, in long counts that measured cosmic eras. The Maya are the most famous for this, with a calendar system that tracked a great cycle of over 5,000 years, culminating in a much misunderstood renewal point. This focus on vast temporal scales suggests a profound preoccupation, not just with when to plant corn, but with humanity's place within a narrative of cosmic seasons that unfolded over millennia. The mechanics of such a system could achieve feats that seem almost magical to us. One of the most powerful is eclipse prediction, likely accomplished through tracking the Saros cycle. This is a period of approximately 18 years and 11 days after which the Sun, Earth, and Moon return to nearly the same relative geometry, and a similar eclipse will occur. To recognize this pattern required centuries of meticulous record-keeping, noting the celestial conditions surrounding each eclipse until the long-term cycle revealed itself. The potential for this knowledge stretches back to a site of astonishing antiquity. At Warren Field in Scotland, archaeologists discovered a series of 12 pits, aligned with the rising point of the midwinter sun. Astonishingly, these features date to around 8000 BCE, making them approximately 10,000 years old. Analysis suggests the pits may have been used to track the phases of the moon over the course of a year, serving as a monumental lunar calendar. If correct, this would be the oldest calendar yet discovered on Earth, a testament to a hunter-gatherer society already encoding the passage of time into the landscape with profound sophistication. This leads us to a reflective and haunting question. Did our ancestors perceive time as we do, as a linear arrow shooting from past to future? Or did they see it as a great spiral where patterns repeated on every scale, from the monthly death and rebirth of the moon to the grand, millennial turning of a cosmic age? And if they saw themselves within such a spiral, where did they believe they stood in that eternal cycle? Were they at a beginning, a golden age, or approaching a point of necessary transformation? To glimpse their answer, we must learn to read the other language they left behind, not in alignments or numbers, but in the symbolic art carved into the very stones that framed their sky. The silent stones speak in a language of curves and circles. Running your fingers over a spiral carved deep into the granite of a passage tomb, you are tracing a symbol that appears from the Boyne Valley in Ireland to the deserts of the American Southwest, repeated across thousands of years. This is megalithic art, a global lexicon of symbols etched by stone tools. The common motifs are deceptively simple: cup marks, concentric rings, spirals, meandering lines, and zigzags. For a long time, these were dismissed as primitive decoration or idle graffiti, but researchers like Martin Brennan have argued compellingly that they form a sophisticated symbolic language, a non-literal script encoding astronomical knowledge and cosmological ideas. These carvings may be the user manual for the cosmic clockwork, a permanent record meant to be read by touch and memory in the dim light of a sacred space. The theories are as fascinating as the symbols themselves. A triple spiral, like the famous one at Newgrange, could represent the sun's threefold journey: rising, zenith, and setting, or perhaps the three realms of earth, sky, and underworld. Concentric circles might map the orbits of celestial bodies or the ripples of cosmic energy emanating from a sacred center. Radiating lines carved around a cup mark could depict sun rays or the paths of stars. Zigzags are often interpreted as symbolic water, essential for life, or as a representation of lightning, a powerful celestial force. The key is that these were not random doodles, they were intentional placements, often found in conjunction with astronomical alignments, on the very stones that framed the light of solstice sunrises or lunar standstills. We can see a fascinating geographical pattern in this symbolic communication. In Atlantic Europe, from Portugal to Scotland, the art is overwhelmingly abstract, a geometry of the cosmos. Further east, in places like the Loughcrew Tomb complex in Ireland, the art becomes slightly more representational. Here, some researchers believe they have identified a possible star map, with specific carvings corresponding to constellations as they would have appeared millennia ago. This suggests different dialects within the same broad symbolic language, some focused on pure pattern and principle, others attempting a more pictorial map of the heavens. A masterwork of this symbolic code is the island tomb of Gavrinis in France. Its interior walls are a breathtaking tapestry, almost every surface covered in intricate, interlocking spirals, arcs, and chevrons. The density and complexity are overwhelming. Some analyses propose that the layout of these carvings is not random, but correlates with the 19-year Metonic lunar cycle, the same slow rhythm tracked by the stones outside. If true, entering Gavrinis would be like stepping inside a three-dimensional calendar, surrounded on all sides by a stone chronicle of the moon's long dance. This invites a profound reflection. If these carvings are a form of writing, what single, enduring story were our ancestors trying to tell? The narrative they whisper across the ages is not of kings and battles, but of connection. It is a story about humanity's intimate, observed relationship with a living, patterned cosmos. It speaks of cycles within cycles, of celestial energy flowing into the earth, and of a deep desire to inscribe that relationship into the most permanent medium they had, stone itself. This symbolic communication was not an isolated practice, but part of a global phenomenon, a shared human impulse to make the invisible rhythms of the universe visible and tangible. Yet, as profound as this symbolic language was, it faced an existential challenge from a revolutionary new technology that would ultimately reshape how humanity recorded time and knowledge. The same sun that rose between the stones of Stonehenge also climbed over the pyramids of Giza and later pierced the heart of a spiral in Choco Canyon. This is not a coincidence of history, but a profound echo of the human mind. Across continents and millennia, cultures that never met, never traded ideas, independently raised stone monuments to the sky, creating a global tapestry of cosmic clockwork. This phenomenon is what some scholars call an anthropological constant, a shared human response to the universal experience of living beneath the moving heavens. From the vast desert of Nabta Playa in southern Egypt, where stones were arranged to mark the summer solstice over 7,000 years ago, to the Big Horn Medicine Wheel high in the mountains of Wyoming, a simple stone circle aligned to the summer solstice sunrise and the rising of key stars. The pattern repeats. It speaks to a fundamental, driving need to anchor human life to celestial order. Consider the architectural precision of Teotihuacan in ancient Mexico. The Street of the Dead, the Pyramid of the Sun, and the Pyramid of the Moon are not haphazardly placed. The entire city is a monumental model of the cosmos, its grid meticulously aligned 15.5 degrees east of true north, an orientation some researchers believe was tied to the Pleiades star cluster or to significant solar dates. Far to the south at Machu Picchu, the Incas carved the Intihuatana stone, a granite pillar whose angles cast no shadow at the exact moment of the spring and autumn equinox, literally hitching the sun to the rock. Across the Pacific, in what is now Japan, the Jomon people, a prehistoric culture known for their pottery, also constructed stone circles like the Oyu site, with arrangements that suggest solstitial alignments, proving this impulse was not confined to the so-called classical civilizations. The reasons for this parallel development are both beautifully simple and deeply complex. On one level, the practical needs were universal. Whether you were farming maize in Mesoamerica or barley in Mesopotamia, knowing the solstice meant knowing when to plant. The sky was the only reliable, accessible calendar for every emerging agricultural society. On another level, the ritual and symbolic imperative was just as powerful. To build a temple that captured the sun at its weakest point, the winter solstice, was an act of communal hope and cosmic participation, a way to ensure the sun's strength would return. The Caracol Observatory at Chichen Itza, with its narrow, slit windows aligned to the sunset on the equinoxes and the extreme positions of Venus, served both a priestly class tracking complex cycles and a populace witnessing the descent of the feathered serpent shadow down the pyramid steps, a spectacle that merged astronomy with state religion and public awe. This global perspective forces a humbling and thrilling question upon us. Does this widespread, independent invention of celestial science suggest a kind of innate human capacity, a hardwired cognitive toolkit for pattern recognition and cosmic wonder that emerges whenever conditions allow? Or does it hint at the faint, lost threads of much older, shared knowledge carried by early human migrations and then adapted in isolation? The evidence strongly favors independent discovery, a testament to the universal human mind confronting the same magnificent puzzle. This realization fundamentally reshapes what we mean by prehistoric science. It was not a primitive precursor to real knowledge. It was a sophisticated, empirical, and spiritually rich understanding of natural law, achieved through patient observation and monumental engineering, not once, but many times over in the cradle of human civilization. If this science was so robust and widespread, then why did its visible practice, the age of raising giant stones to the sky, eventually come to an end? The Victorian image of brutish cavemen grunting and stumbling toward civilization is a stubborn myth that obscures a brilliant reality. These were the architects of multi-generational engineering projects, the patient observers who tracked celestial cycles longer than their own lives, and the geometricians who laid out perfect ellipses across rolling hills. Modern archaeology has undergone a quiet revolution, led by thinkers like Colin Renfrew, who forcefully argues for the cognitive sophistication of Neolithic peoples. Their achievements in symbolic art, monumental construction, and landscape astronomy reveal not a primitive mind, but a different kind of intellect, one honed by memory, observation, and a deep, practical geometry. This shift challenges us to understand that the term prehistoric is merely a chronological label, marking a time before written records in a particular region. It is not and never was an intellectual label. The absence of a written script does not equate to an absence of complex thought, sophisticated social organization, or advanced technical knowledge. It simply means their science was encoded in other ways, in the alignment of stones, the rhythm of rituals, and the stories passed from elder to initiate. Consider the most persistent misconceptions. Some suggest the astronomical alignments are mere coincidences, the result of enough stones being placed in enough random directions that some will inevitably point to something in the sky. This argument collapses under the weight of statistical analysis and the sheer repetition of specific alignments, like the winter solstice sunrise, across hundreds of widely separated sites. It is a pattern too consistent to be chance. Another misconception reduces these endeavors to brute force, imagining thousands of people mindlessly hauling rocks. But moving a multi-ton stone is only the first step. The true marvel is the finishing. Look at the great trilithon at Stonehenge, the massive central horseshoe. Each upright sarsen was painstakingly dressed, pounded with stone mauls over countless hours, not into a simple block, but into a subtle trapezoidal shape. The lintels perched atop them were not just squared logs, they were carefully curved to form a continuous ring, with tongue and groove joints carved into the solid stone to lock them together. This is not brute force, it is precision engineering of the highest order, requiring planning, measurement, and a masterful understanding of stress and load. It forces a reflective and perhaps uncomfortable question. By labeling these societies primitive, have we been unconsciously projecting our own technological biases onto the past, valuing the written word over embodied knowledge, the metal tool over the stone one? In doing so, we risk missing the essence of their intelligence, which was not about the material of their tools, but the grandeur of their concepts. They solved problems of scale, time, and community that would challenge us today. Re-evaluating their true capabilities is not just about giving credit where it is due. It fundamentally changes the methods we use to study them. It moves us from an archaeology of artifacts to an archaeology of mind, asking not just what they built, but how they thought. A single beam of laser light now traces the same spiral carved by stone tools 5,000 years ago. The quest to understand the cosmic clockwork has entered a new era, one where our most advanced digital tools are trained upon the world's most ancient stones. This is not about replacing wonder with data, but about using precision to ask deeper questions. At dawn on a solstice morning, you might see an archaeoastronomer not with a ceremonial staff, but with a digital theodolite, a high-precision instrument that measures angles to a fraction of a degree. They are collecting data points to test an alignment hypothesis with a rigor the original builders would have appreciated, merging respect for ancient craft with the power of cutting-edge technology. This suite of modern tools has fundamentally transformed the field, turning speculation into testable science and revealing hidden worlds beneath our feet. Consider LiDAR, which stands for light detection and ranging. Mounted on an aircraft, it fires millions of laser pulses toward the ground, penetrating thick forest canopy to map the terrain beneath in astonishing detail. The Stonehenge Hidden Landscapes project used this technology to revolutionary effect. What was once thought to be a relatively isolated monument was revealed to be the heart of a vast ritual complex. Their ground-penetrating radar and LiDAR surveys uncovered a sprawling network of previously unknown shrines, burial mounds, and processional pathways, showing that Stonehenge was just one piece of a gigantic sacred geography engineered across the plain. Similarly, photogrammetry uses overlapping photographs from drones or handheld cameras to create hyper-accurate three-dimensional models of monuments. Every crack, every weathering pattern, every subtle carving can be digitally preserved and studied from any angle, allowing researchers to measure alignments and sightlines within the virtual model with perfect accuracy. To test those alignments, scientists turn to sophisticated software like Stellarium, a planetarium program that can recreate the night sky as it appeared at any location on Earth, thousands of years in the past. By inputting the precise coordinates and horizon profile of a stone circle, researchers can run simulations to see which celestial bodies, if any, align with its axis on significant dates. But this is where a critical scientific step comes in: statistical analysis. With hundreds of stones at a site, some will inevitably point to something in the sky by random chance. How do we know an alignment was intentional? Researchers use probability mathematics to calculate the likelihood that a particular orientation, say to the winter solstice sunset, occurred by accident. If the alignment is far more precise and repeated across many sites than random distribution would allow, the case for intentional design grows strong. This statistical rigor is the backbone of credible archaeoastronomy, separating meaningful patterns from wishful thinking. Dating these structures has also been revolutionized. Dendrochronology, the study of tree ring patterns, can date wooden remains associated with a site to the exact year they were felled. Radiocarbon dating analyzes the decay of carbon-14 in organic material like bone or charcoal found in construction layers, providing a probable date range. Together, they build a precise chronology, telling us not just that a monument is old, but revealing the sequence of its construction, sometimes over centuries. We can now even trace the journeys of the stones themselves. Isotopic analysis involves taking tiny samples from a megalith and measuring the unique chemical fingerprint of its minerals. This signature can be matched to geological outcrops, revealing the exact quarry the stone came from. This science confirmed the incredible journey of Stonehenge's bluestones from the Preseli Hills in Wales, a 250-kilometer journey that speaks volumes about the monument's importance. Perhaps the most visually stunning tool is the drone. Equipped with high-resolution cameras, drones can capture perspectives impossible for a person on the ground. They can fly along the axis of a Cursus monument, revealing how it points directly to a distant hilltop where the sun rises on the equinox. They can create composite images that show how multiple sites across a valley interlock visually, making the concept of a ritual landscape suddenly, breathtakingly clear. Yet, all this technology invites a profound reflective question. As our lasers scan every surface and our software models every possible alignment, are we getting closer to understanding the intent and worldview of the builders? Or are we simply layering our own digital, analytical interpretations onto their stone canvas? The tools do not give us the meaning, they give us more precise questions. They also help us correct past mistakes. Early enthusiasts sometimes made grandiose claims about ancient astronomy that later, more rigorous analysis could not support. Modern tools allow us to confront those misinterpretations, to learn from them, and to build a more accurate, if perhaps more humble, picture of the past. The data is a bridge, not a destination, and it leads us to an even more fundamental mystery, one written not in stone alignments, but in the very bones of the people who built them. The 18th century looked at Stonehenge and saw not Neolithic farmers, but mysterious Celtic priests called Druids conducting moonlit rituals. This romantic vision, popularized by antiquarians like William Stukeley, tells us more about the era that imagined it than the one that built the stones. It is a perfect example of how every generation tends to project its own beliefs, anxieties, and fantasies onto the silent monuments of the past. This process of reinterpretation is not a flaw to be avoided, but a fundamental lesson in the study of archaeoastronomy. We must practice historiographical critique, which means carefully examining the history of our own ideas about the past, learning from the missteps of previous interpreters to build a more rigorous understanding. The field is littered with instructive errors. The once popular concept of ley lines as mysterious energy paths connecting ancient sites captured the public imagination. But when subjected to statistical scrutiny, the alignments often proved no more meaningful than connecting random dots on a map. On the other hand, claims of astronomical intent at Newgrange were initially dismissed by many mainstream archaeologists as fanciful, until the winter solstice alignment was empirically verified, forcing a major re-evaluation of Neolithic capabilities. Both extremes, the over-enthusiastic and the overly dismissive, teach us the value of a cautious, evidence-based middle path. Scholar Ewan Mackay championed this approach, advocating for what he called a hypothetico-deductive method. This means starting with a clear hypothesis, for example, that a passage tomb is aligned to a solstice sunrise, and then deducing what observable evidence would prove or disprove it, rather than selectively gathering facts that only support a pre-existing belief. This rigor is our best defense against a pervasive pitfall known as confirmation bias. It is the subconscious human tendency to seek out and favor information that confirms what we already believe or hope to be true. In archaeoastronomy, this might mean a researcher, convinced a site is a lunar observatory, measures only the alignments that point to the moon, ignoring the dozens of other stones that point to nothing celestial at all. True science must make room for null results, for alignments that do not work, for data that contradicts a beautiful theory. These are not failures, but essential corrections that guide us closer to a reliable truth. A famous case that ignited this very debate is the Orion correlation theory, proposed by researchers Robert Bovell and Adrian Gilbert. They suggested that the three main pyramids of Giza were arranged to mirror the three stars of Orion's belt as they appeared in the sky around 2500 BC. The idea was symbolically powerful and captured global attention, but many Egyptologists and astronomers questioned the precision of the match and the selective use of evidence. The controversy was not about whether the ancient Egyptians had stellar interests. They certainly did, but about the standards of proof required for such a specific, grand claim. It sparked a necessary and ongoing conversation about how we distinguish compelling coincidence from demonstrable intent. We can see this evolution of standards in the reception of Gerald Hawkins' work in the 1960s. Using an early computer to analyze Stonehenge, he proposed it was a complex astronomical computer for predicting eclipses. The archaeological establishment of the time was largely skeptical, even hostile, to what they saw as sensationalist speculation. Yet, while some of Hawkins' specific mechanisms were later challenged, his core insistence that the monument held intentional astronomical alignments forced a paradigm shift. His work, for all its controversy, paved the way for the serious, interdisciplinary study of ancient astronomy we see today. So we must pause and ask ourselves a reflective question. As modern interpreters armed with lasers and software, how do we strive for objectivity while honestly acknowledging that the questions we bring to these stones are inevitably shaped by our own time, our own tools, and our own cultural longing for connection? We cannot escape our perspective, but we can cultivate intellectual humility, letting the evidence, in all its messy complexity, guide the story. This critical lens is not a barrier to wonder, but the very foundation that makes the wonder trustworthy. It is essential now as we turn to examine some of the most enduring and controversial alignments ever proposed, where the line between celestial observation and cosmic mythology becomes beautifully, fascinatingly blurred. The sky's most dramatic performance is the sudden, chilling theft of the sun. In the middle of the day, the world grows cold, shadows sharpen into unnatural blades, and the sun vanishes behind a black disk ringed with an unearthly silver fire. A total solar eclipse is a moment of primal terror and awe, an event that prehistoric people not only witnessed but desperately sought to comprehend and perhaps even foresee. This quest leads us into the heart of the great controversies in archaeoastronomy, the debate over whether ancient builders could predict eclipses and whether they perceived the grandest celestial cycle of all, the 26,000-year wobble of our planet known as precession. The mechanics of eclipse prediction hinge on recognizing long-term patterns. The most famous is the Saros cycle, a period of approximately 18 years and 11 days after which the Sun, Earth, and Moon return to nearly the same alignment, producing a similar eclipse. To identify this cycle required meticulous, unbroken observation over centuries, noting the celestial conditions surrounding each eclipse until the pattern slowly revealed itself in the collective memory of generations. An even more complex rhythm is the Metonic cycle, the 19 years it takes for the phases of the Moon to recur on the same solar calendar date. This is a key to harmonizing lunar and solar time. The monumental effort to track these cycles speaks to a society that thought in scales far beyond a single human lifespan. This brings us to one of the most contentious theories in the study of Stonehenge. In the 1960s, the renowned astronomer Fred Hoyle proposed that the circle of 56 Aubrey holes, the mysterious pits that ring the monument, functioned as a primitive eclipse predictor. His idea suggested that markers could be moved around this circle in a specific pattern, using the 56-year cycle as a kind of mechanical computer to forecast when the Sun and Moon's paths would intersect in darkness. While many archaeologists remain skeptical of this specific function, the number 56 itself is significant. It is a multiple of both the lunar month and the Metonic cycle, strong circumstantial evidence that the builders were embedding celestial mathematics into their architecture, whether for eclipse prediction or for tracking the complex dance between Sun and Moon. But an even deeper mystery looms, one of almost unimaginable slowness. Precession is the gradual wobble of Earth's axis, like a spinning top slowly tracing a circle in space. This wobble completes one full cycle every 26,000 years, causing the position of the stars on the horizon to shift imperceptibly over centuries. The North Star changes and entire constellations drift, proving that a prehistoric culture was aware of this glacial shift is extraordinarily difficult, as it requires tracking star positions with precise consistency over hundreds of years. Yet some alignments tantalize. The southern shaft of the Great Pyramid of Giza, for instance, pointed directly at the star Al-Nitak, the brightest star in Orion's belt, around the time of its construction, 2,500 years before the Common Era. Due to precession, that alignment is now lost. Was this intentional, a deliberate snapshot of the sky, frozen in stone at a specific moment in the Great Cycle? This invites a profound and humbling reflection. If some keepers of the ancient sky did grasp the reality of precession, what did that knowledge mean for them? To understand that the very axis of their world was slowly turning through a cycle longer than hundreds of human generations, did it instill a sense of profound cosmic perspective? Did it give them a feeling of participating in a universe of majestic, deliberate slowness, where their monuments were not just marking annual seasons, but anchoring their moment in a celestial story tens of thousands of years long? Whether they tracked these grand cycles with certainty or simply felt their effects in the slow drift of tradition, their intellectual ambition laid a foundation. The desire to find order in the most terrifying and slow-moving celestial events became a legacy, etched not only in stone, but into the astronomical pursuits of every civilization that followed. The date of Easter is a lunisolar puzzle, requiring a precise alignment of the sun's year and the moon's phases. When medieval monks bent over their manuscripts, calculating this movable feast with complex tables, they were solving a problem of celestial harmony that Neolithic astronomers had confronted millennia before. This is not a coincidence, but a whisper of cultural continuity. The sophisticated timekeeping encoded in stone circles did not vanish with the last megalith. Instead, it fragmented, its pieces surviving in folklore, in the practical rhythms of agriculture, and in the silent repurposing of the ancient sites themselves. Historians of science note how classical authors, like Diodorus Siculus in the 1st century before the Common Era, wrote of a spherical temple in the far north, dedicated to Apollo and aligned with the sun, a description many believe references Stonehenge and hints that some knowledge of its purpose lingered in Mediterranean intellectual circles. This suggests a thread, however faint, connecting the prehistoric cosmic clockwork to the foundations of Greek and Roman natural philosophy. The medieval period is often framed as a break from ancient science, a dark age. But in crucial ways, it became a vessel for preserving a cyclical understanding of time. The agricultural calendar of the peasant, tied to saints' days that often overlay older solar festivals, kept the rhythm of the seasons central to daily life. Church architecture enacted this continuity in stone through the principle of orientatio, the deliberate alignment of a church's altar toward the east, toward the rising sun and the symbolic direction of paradise. While explicitly Christian in meaning, this practice echoes the far older impulse to anchor sacred space to the path of light. This legacy may even shine in the soaring heights of Gothic cathedrals. Their architects were master manipulators of light, designing vast windows of stained glass to transform sunlight into a divine narrative. While not precise astronomical instruments, these buildings used illumination as a spiritual technology, creating moments of calculated brilliance that can feel like a theological echo of the solstitial light show at Newgrange. The ancient desire to capture and ritualize light had found a new, magnificent expression. We see a more tangible interaction at places like Maeshowe in Orkney. Centuries after its builders were gone, Vikings used the Great Tomb as a temporary shelter during a storm. They left behind runic inscriptions carved into its ancient walls, one famously boasting, "These runes were carved by the most rune-skilled man in the Western Ocean." Here, a Norse adventurer from a different world with a different cosmology nonetheless recognized the power and significance of the site, adding his own story to its layers. He did not understand the original solstitial alignment, but he felt the weight of the place. This reuse and reinterpretation happened across Europe, as standing stones were incorporated into churchyards or became landmarks in local tales as petrified giants or dancing maidens, preserving their importance while obscuring their original function. This forces a reflective and urgent question. How much of what we call medieval or classical science is actually built upon a much older, monumental and oral foundation? The Greek geometricians who formalized the mathematics of circles may have been systematizing principles that megalithic surveyors had practiced intuitively. The Roman fascination with solar deities and cyclical history may have tapped into deep, pre-literate currents of cosmic thought. The legacy of the cosmic clockwork is not a closed chapter in a history book. It is a reminder that human inquiry into the patterns of the universe is a continuous, rediscovered conversation. Our modern search for exoplanets and cosmic rhythms is, in a profound sense, the latest expression of that same innate drive to map our place in the cosmos. The stones were the first great notation in that ongoing equation. That same fundamental wonder connects a Neolithic elder tracing a star's path and a modern astrophysicist mapping the curvature of spacetime. They are participants in the same unbroken human project, the quest to comprehend our place in the cosmos. Rediscovering these ancient clockworks shatters the artificial barrier we often place between ancient intuition and modern science, revealing instead a continuous spectrum of inquiry. As the astronomer Carl Sagan so beautifully expressed, we are all made of star stuff, and that shared cosmic heritage is written in both our myths and our mathematics. The prehistoric observatories were not merely symbolic, they were the earliest laboratories of empirical science. Their method followed a clear, if ritualized, logic. First came patient, generations-long observation, noting the precise points on the horizon where celestial bodies rose and set. From this data emerged a hypothesis, a belief that capturing this moment in architecture would harmonize human life with cosmic order. Then came the experimental verification, the monumental act of building. If, on the dawn of the winter solstice, the sun's first light traveled exactly down the prepared passage to illuminate the sacred chamber, the hypothesis was confirmed. The universe had answered. This process represents a profound physical dialogue with nature, a science enacted in stone and light rather than written in equations. Recognizing this continuity is a powerful antidote to what philosopher Owen Barfield termed chronological snobbery, the assumption that earlier ways of thinking are inherently inferior to our own. It fosters a longer, more sustainable view of human history, one where we are not the pinnacle of a linear ascent, but the current bearers of a very old conversation. This heritage is not locked in the past, it actively lives in our present culture. Every year, thousands gather at Stonehenge for the solstice, not as archaeologists but as participants in a timeless human moment. They stand in the cold dawn, faces turned east, waiting for that same sunrise the builders engineered the stones to greet. This enduring power speaks to a deep, unmet need in our modern, artificially lit world. We have gained incredible precision in our timekeeping, yet we have often lost the visceral, embodied connection to the cycles that govern life on Earth. So we must ask a reflective and urgent question. In an age of digital abstraction and planetary challenges, can re-engaging with these sites of celestial observation offer us something vital? Can walking the same ground, witnessing the same alignments, help restore a sense of cosmic perspective and humility, reminding us that we are part of a much larger, older story? This perspective is not a retreat into the past, but a grounding for the future. It reminds us that our drive to understand the universe is our most defining and enduring trait, a legacy that makes the preservation of these fragile stone libraries an imperative for generations yet to come. The sound of a single stone falling is a crack that echoes through centuries. We stand as the inheritors of a cosmic legacy etched in earth and stone, yet this inheritance is fragile. The very monuments that survived ice ages, shifting climates, and millennia of silence now face unprecedented threats from our own time. The urgency of preservation is no longer an abstract concern. It is a race against quiet erosion and sudden loss. Imagine a sacred landscape, its sight lines carefully curated over generations, now sliced by the concrete path of a new highway. Picture a 5,000-year-old megalith, its surface bearing ancient celestial carvings, recently scarred by modern graffiti. These are not hypotheticals, they are reports from conservationists on the front lines. The challenges are multifaceted and immense. Climate change brings more intense weather patterns, accelerating the natural erosion of exposed stone and earthenworks. The very breath of millions of visitors, each one drawn by legitimate wonder, can alter the microclimate within a passage tomb, encouraging damaging biological growth. Unsustainable tourism without careful management leads to soil compaction, litter, and the gradual, unintentional wearing away of the sacred ground itself. Perhaps most insidious is urban development, which encroaches on the buffer zones around these sites, destroying the pristine horizons that are as much a part of the observatory as the stones themselves. A single new building on a distant hill can forever break an alignment meant to frame the rising sun. Organizations like UNESCO and the International Council on Monuments and Sites, known as ICOMOS, frame this as a crisis of balance. These locations are dual in nature. They are archaeological treasures of outstanding universal value, and for many communities, they remain active spiritual centers and places of cultural continuity. Managing them is not simply about putting a fence around a relic. It is about stewarding a living relationship between past and present. The core tension lies between public access and preservation. We want people to experience these wonders, to feel that direct connection, but each footstep, each touch carries a cost. This cost becomes astronomically high when we consider the precision involved. A stone shifted by even a few centimeters, whether by ground settling, vandalism, or well-intentioned but misguided restoration, can permanently destroy its function as a celestial sightline. The alignment that took generations to perfect can be invalidated in a moment. We see these pressures playing out in real time. The long-debated proposal for a road tunnel near Stonehenge highlights the conflict between modern infrastructure and ancient landscape. Critics argue that tunneling so close to the monument risks damaging the unseen archaeological tapestry of the entire plain and could irrevocably alter the sensory experience of the site, the very sense of isolation and connection to the sky that its builders cultivated. Elsewhere, the iconic chalk hill figures of Britain, like the Uffington White Horse, require constant, careful maintenance to combat natural grass overgrowth and the scarring effects of erosion, a battle to keep a prehistoric symbol visible on the land. A powerful case study in active conservation is unfolding on the island of Malta, at the Neolithic temple complex of Haga Kim. These monumental structures, among the oldest free-standing stone buildings in the world, are under direct assault from a silent enemy, salt crystallization. Sea breezes carry salt particles that seep into the porous limestone. As the salt crystals form and expand within the stone's microscopic pores, they exert immense pressure, slowly but relentlessly forcing the surface to powder and flake away. To combat this, a vast protective tent now shelters the main temple, a modern membrane guarding ancient geometry, a necessary intervention to slow the decay driven by our changing world. These stones have withstood the slow wear of wind and rain for 5,000 years. The poignant question we must now confront is whether they can survive the next century of human pressure. Their survival is not guaranteed. It requires informed vigilance, sustainable planning, and international cooperation. It asks us to redefine what progress means, to sometimes choose the longer route that preserves a vista, or to limit access to protect a delicate surface. So who holds the responsibility for this stewardship? The answer is layered. It falls to global bodies and national governments, to archaeologists and engineers. But in a profound sense, it also falls to every visitor who chooses to walk softly, to every community that advocates for its heritage, and to every one of us who understands that these are not just old rocks, but the first chapters of humanity's story with the stars. This responsibility connects us to a powerful truth. The cosmic clockwork was never meant to be a museum piece under glass. For many cultures around the world, it remains a living, breathing part of their present. The cold stones of Stonehenge are warmed each summer solstice by the hands and voices of thousands. In a powerful, modern ritual, self-described druids in white robes, neo-pagans adorned with symbolic jewelry, curious tourists, and local families all gather in the pre-dawn gloom. As the first sliver of sun crests the horizon, aligned with the ancient heel stone, a chorus of cheers, chants, and camera shutters erupts. This vibrant tableau is not an archaeological reenactment, but a genuine, living layer of meaning being woven directly atop the old. It represents a profound 21st century phenomenon, the reclamation of these prehistoric spaces by contemporary spiritual movements who see in them not ruins but active temples. Groups following paths like Druidry, Wicca, and various other neo-pagan traditions have adopted many megalithic sites as their sacred spaces. They perform ceremonies, mark the eightfold wheel of the year tied to solstices and equinoxes, and seek a direct, personal connection with the natural and celestial cycles the monuments were built to track. Ethnographic studies of these communities, like those conducted by scholar Ronald Hutton, reveal that their practices often emphasize themes deeply resonant with the site's original context: a reverence for the earth, an awareness of astronomical rhythms, and a sense of participating in a cyclical, living cosmos. For many practitioners, these are not arbitrary choices. They are a heartfelt response to the palpable atmosphere of the place itself. This creates a complex, often delicate dance between different groups who all claim a stake in these stones. On one side are heritage managers and archaeologists tasked with preserving fragile archaeology for future study. On the other are the spiritual user groups for whom the site is a vital, living church. Their relationship exists on a spectrum from tense conflict to respectful collaboration. The central friction points are access and authenticity. Heritage bodies worry about damage from rituals like candle wax on stone or the erosion caused by large gatherings. Spiritual groups sometimes feel marginalized, treated as a nuisance rather as legitimate stakeholders with a deep, albeit different, form of knowledge. The concept of invented tradition is often invoked in academic circles to describe modern practices that claim great antiquity. Critics might argue that the link between today's Druids and the prehistoric builders is a creative reimagination, not a direct lineage. Practitioners, however, frequently counter that spiritual connection is not dependent on unbroken historical pedigree, that the human response to the sacred is timeless, and that their ecological and celestial focus aligns with the likely worldview of the original creators. This negotiation plays out vividly in the managed access to Stonehenge for the summer solstice. English Heritage, the custodial body, opens the inner circle for this one night, balancing public demand, spiritual practice, and paramount security and preservation concerns. It is a temporary, carefully policed suspension of the normal barriers, a concession that acknowledges the site's enduring power as a gathering point. This annual event is a microcosm of the larger debate, where the rights of spiritual expression and public celebration are weighed directly against the duty to protect an irreplaceable archaeological resource. So we are left with a beautiful, unanswerable question. When a modern person stands in that circle and feels a surge of awe, a sense of connection to something vast and ancient, what is truly happening? Are they, in some intangible way, tapping into a numinous quality embedded in the site by its builders, a resonance that has lingered in the landscape for millennia? Or are they, through their own beliefs and intentions, creating something entirely new, using the stones as a powerful backdrop for a contemporary spiritual search? Perhaps the most significant answer is that the question itself keeps the stones alive. This living, sometimes contentious dialogue ensures that these monuments are not frozen relics in a museum case, but active, evolving participants in human culture. They continue to tell a story, but now the narrative has many authors, each adding a verse to an epic that began with the tracking of a single star. The silent language of stones can become a vibrant classroom under the open sky. For a child holding a smartphone, an augmented reality app can superimpose the path of the winter solstice sun onto the ruins before them, making an abstract celestial event a visible, walkable line across the grass. This is the immense educational potential of the cosmic clockwork, transforming ancient observatories into dynamic portals for learning. Educators are increasingly harnessing archaeoastronomy as a perfect interdisciplinary bridge. A physics teacher can explain the Earth's axial tilt by referencing the changing angle of sunlight in a 5,000-year-old passage tomb. A math class can calculate the geometry used to lay out a stone circle, applying principles of circles and triangles to a real-world problem solved millennia ago. History and art converge in the study of megalithic symbols, where patterns become a code to crack. As one educator noted, it makes students realize that science and culture have never been separate pursuits, but were always intertwined in humanity's quest to understand its world. This learning extends far beyond the physical site. Virtual reconstructions allow anyone, anywhere, to stand in the center of a digitally recreated Stonehenge at dawn on the summer solstice, watching the sun rise between the stones with perfect clarity. Interactive museum exhibits use light projectors to simulate the movement of stars across a dome, showing how specific alignments function over the course of a night or a year. These tools democratize access, turning global heritage into a shared, immersive experience. They also empower a new form of public participation through citizen science. Projects invite volunteers to help photograph rock art for digital archives, to use smartphone apps to record the compass bearings of standing stones, or to monitor modern horizon lines to see if ancient sight lines are still intact. This active involvement transforms a passive visitor into a co-discoverer, contributing to real research. A powerful model for this engagement is found in community-led initiatives like those in Ireland's Boyne Valley. Here, local residents undergo training to become heritage guides, learning not just the archaeology of sites like Newgrange, but the precise astronomy behind the winter solstice alignment. They then share this knowledge with visitors, weaving together myth, architecture, and celestial mechanics into a single, compelling story. This solar heritage approach does more than educate. It fosters local pride and creates a new generation of stewards who feel a direct, personal responsibility for the preservation of these places. It answers a profound question: how do we best translate the silent language of stones into a narrative that inspires? The answer lies in making the connection active and personal. When a student builds a simple sundial and sees the principal scale up to a monument that tracked seasons for centuries, they are not just learning about history, they are touching the continuity of human ingenuity. This educational mission ensures the cosmic clockwork is not a closed book of the past, but an open invitation to observe, to question, and to wonder, nurturing the scientist, the historian, and the caretaker in everyone who looks up and wonders about their place in the story. A single post hole, unseen for millennia, can rewrite the story of an entire civilization. This is the thrilling, humbling frontier of archaeoastronomy today, where the past is not a settled fact but a living puzzle. Every season of excavation, every sweep of ground-penetrating radar, and every new laboratory analysis has the power to overturn decades of established theory, revealing that our understanding of the cosmic clockwork is still in its adolescence. The major unresolved questions are not minor details, they are the very architecture of the unknown. What was the true purpose of outlier stones, those solitary sentinels placed far from the main circles? Were they distant foresights for complex alignments, territorial markers, or memorials to individual events? We still grapple with the full scale of the landscape networks. How many more monuments lie buried, waiting to connect the dots in a cognitive map we have only glimpsed? The silent language of megalithic art remains a tantalizing cipher. Are the spirals and cup marks a symbolic notation of celestial cycles, a mythological narrative, or a form of sacred cartography we have yet to decode? Perhaps the most profound mystery is social. How exactly did Neolithic societies, without kings or written decrees, organize the generational labor and precise knowledge required to raise these eternal machines? Leading projects are now providing stunning new pieces to this puzzle. The ongoing work at Durrington Walls, the vast settlement just miles from Stonehenge, has been revolutionary. Here, archaeologists uncovered the remains of enormous seasonal feasts, with animal bones numbering in the tens of thousands. This was not a permanent town, but a transient, ceremonial city that swelled with people at key times of the year, likely those same solstices and equinoxes marked by the stones. The builders of the cosmic clockwork were not anonymous ghosts. They were communities that gathered, feasted, and celebrated their connection to the sky. Emerging scientific techniques are letting us ask questions that would have been pure fantasy a generation ago. Ancient DNA analysis of human remains from these sites is beginning to trace the familial relationships and migration patterns of the builders themselves. Were they closely knit kin groups, or did they draw pilgrims and workers from across the continent? Isotopic analysis of those same animal bones tells another story. By studying chemical signatures in the teeth, scientists can determine where an animal was raised and in what season it was slaughtered. This data is painting a dynamic picture of seasonal movement, revealing that people were bringing livestock from distant regions to these grand gatherings, turning the monuments into hubs of a vast, ritualized economy. Specific enigmas continue to captivate and challenge. The endless rows of stones at Karnak in France, nearly 3,000 menhirs stretching over kilometers, defy simple explanation. Was this a colossal model of the cosmos, a processional way for the dead, or an immense educational tool for tracking the moon's complex standstills? At the Noath tomb in Ireland, the prominence of the 19-year Metonic cycle in its art and architecture begs for deeper understanding. Was this number a sacred key, used to harmonize solar and lunar calendars and to predict eclipses for ritual purposes? New discoveries arrive with thrilling regularity, like the recent feature highlighted on the program Digging for Britain, a 4,000-year-old timber circle found in England. This ring of massive wooden posts, a ghostly outline in the soil, is being interpreted as a potential time observatory, a place where timber, not stone, was used to frame celestial events. It reminds us that for every Stonehenge that survived, there may have been 100 wooden henges that returned to the earth, their secrets lost to time. This forward momentum forces a reflective and exciting question upon us. With each technological leap and each fresh excavation, are we approaching the final chapter of this story, or are we, in fact, just turning the first few pages of a much longer book? The evidence suggests we are at the beginning of a true understanding, not the end. Every answered question reveals three more, ensuring that the silent stones will continue to speak, and we are only now learning how to listen. The story we have traced is not a single thread but an intricate tapestry. We began with the practical need to track seasons for survival and saw that need blossom into monumental architecture. We witnessed local engineering feats of moving stone and found them echoed in parallel across continents. We observed the transformation of silent observation into powerful ritual theater. The challenge now is to weave these separate strands into a single, coherent narrative, one that replaces the simplistic image of primitive sun worshippers with a nuanced portrait of profound cognitive achievement. This is the work of synthesis, of building a new story from the evidence. Archaeologist Mike Parker Pearson's research provides a masterful example. His work did not treat Stonehenge in isolation, but revealed its vital connection to the nearby settlement of Durrington Walls and the River Avon. He proposed a powerful holistic model, a landscape deliberately divided between zones for the living and the domains for those who came before, all linked by processional avenues and aligned to the solstice sun. In this narrative, Stonehenge was not just a stone circle. It was part of a vast ceremonial circuit where the journey between life and memory was physically walked and cosmologically affirmed. This kind of synthesis integrates disparate fields into a unified vision. It brings together the hard data of astronomy, confirming the solstice alignments, with the material evidence of archaeology, like the feasting debris at Durrington Walls. It draws on anthropology to understand the possible social structures and ritual behaviors, and environmental science to reconstruct the ancient landscape they inhabited. The result shows a society not as separate from nature, but deeply embedded within and exquisitely responsive to both its earthly environment and its cosmic context. We can see this integration in several key areas. First, economics and astronomy were fused through seasonal gatherings. The solstice was not just a celestial event, it was the trigger for massive communal feasts, where resources from distant areas were brought together, reinforcing social bonds and enabling the large-scale labor projects. Second, ideology, particularly in the form of reverence for ancestors, was directly linked to the celestial cycles. Monuments like Newgrange, where the winter sun reaches the innermost chamber, suggest a belief that the regenerative power of the sun could interact with the realm of the departed, a potent fusion of astronomy and spiritual hope. Third, the monuments themselves served as permanent cosmological anchors. This overarching theory suggests these structures were designed to do more than mark time. They were built to stabilize the human world within the perceived order of the cosmos. By fixing the pivotal moments of the solar and lunar cycles into the immutable Earth, the builders created a sense of permanence and certainty. In a world of changing seasons, unpredictable weather, and the inevitable passage of generations, the stones stood as a guarantee that the great cycles would continue, that the sun would always return, and that human society had a fixed, meaningful place within that eternal rhythm. This synthesized view invites a reflective pause. Does understanding our ancestors in this integrated way, as complex engineer priests, landscape architects, and cosmic philosophers, make them seem more familiar to us? We recognize our own drive for understanding, our own use of technology to solve problems, or does it make them seem more profoundly different? Their entire worldview, where economics, spirituality, politics, and science were inseparable strands of a single cosmic fabric, challenges our modern compartmentalized existence. Their sense of time was not linear and fleeting, but cyclical and anchored. Their most colossal investments were not in weapons or palaces, but in instruments of celestial connection. This rediscovery culminates in a question of legacy. What does it mean for us to finally hear this synthesized narrative? It means we are recovering a lost chapter of human intelligence, one that expands our definition of science and deepens our respect for the capabilities of the human mind without the technology we take for granted. It offers a humbling lesson in long-term thinking and a powerful model of how a culture can seek harmony with, rather than dominance over, the fundamental patterns of the world it inhabits. The quiet hum of the modern world often makes the stars feel distant, a backdrop to our illuminated lives. Yet the story of the cosmic clockwork offers a quiet invitation, a chance to step outside on a clear night and simply look up from your own doorstep. This is not about recreating ancient rituals, but about reclaiming a fundamental human perspective, one measured not in quarterly reports or news cycles, but in the slow, majestic turn of celestial seasons. The most profound takeaway from these silent stones is an invitation to reflect on our own relationship with time, the cosmos, and the deep lineage of human curiosity we all share. This reflection connects to a powerful philosophical idea often called deep time or the long now. It is the conscious effort to expand our sense of time beyond our own brief lifespans, to consider scales of centuries and millennia. The builders of Newgrange or the Callanish stones did not think in 5-year plans, they thought in generations. Their monuments are physical manifestations of the long now, anchors meant to hold meaning for people they would never meet. Engaging with this history can be a potent antidote to modern alienation, that subtle feeling of being unmoored in a fast, fragmented present. It offers a profound sense of continuity, a tangible thread connecting you to a human story that is tens of thousands of years long. You are not just an individual in a fleeting moment. You are the latest witness in an unbroken line of observers who have marveled at the same winter solstice sunrise, the same rising of the Pleiades. This connection does not require a pilgrimage to a famous site. It begins with simple, intentional practices. Notice the sun's position at sunrise or sunset from a window you look through every day and see how it shifts over the weeks. On a dark night, learn just 1 or 2 constellations like Orion or the Big Dipper and recognize them as the same patterns that guided ancient travelers. If you can visit a local ancient site, even a simple standing stone in a farmer's field, go with new eyes, stand there quietly. Instead of just seeing a rock, consider the horizon. Ask what that spot frames at dawn on the longest day of the year. You are not just visiting a relic, you are standing inside someone else's carefully chosen window to the universe. The power of this shift in perspective is deeply personal. Consider the testimony of a teacher from Scotland who began studying the lunar alignments at the Callanish stones after a period of personal loss. She described how tracking the moon's slow 18-year cycle from her backyard became a form of quiet therapy. In learning that the builders tracked a rhythm longer than a single life, she found a strange comfort. Her own grief, while acute, was placed within a vaster, more rhythmic frame. It did not diminish her experience, but it offered a sense that life, loss, and renewal were part of a larger, enduring pattern written into the very fabric of the world. She found a sense of peace not in answers, but in the scale of the questions our ancestors asked. So we arrive at the final, reflective question this journey naturally poses. In our fervent effort to rediscover their cosmic clockwork, to map their alignments and decode their symbols, what are we truly seeking? Are we perhaps trying to rediscover a dormant part of ourselves? A capacity for patient wonder that does not demand instant gratification. A skill of observation that finds patterns in chaos. A deep, almost instinctual desire to mark our passage under the same eternal sky and to feel, in our bones, that we belong to a story far grander than our own. The silent stones do not give us their beliefs, but they reflect back our own enduring need to find meaning in the light and the darkness, to build something that whispers we were here and we understood our moment in the spin of the stars. This personal connection, this reawakened sense of place within the cosmic cycle, forms the essential bridge to our final thoughts. This legacy of connection carries with it a profound and non-negotiable responsibility. We are not the owners of these cosmic clockworks, but their temporary custodians. The understanding we have gained about their sophistication transforms our role from casual observers into ethical stewards. This is an imperative born from respect for the monumental intellectual and spiritual achievement these sites represent, a duty to safeguard a legacy that belongs not to one nation or generation, but to all of humanity and to those yet to be born. Indigenous philosophies from around the world have long articulated this principle of stewardship. The Maori concept of Kaishiakitanga, for instance, embodies a deep, active guardianship of the environment and cultural treasures, a role passed down through generations with the understanding that one does not inherit the earth from ancestors, but borrows it from children. This worldview aligns powerfully with global heritage charters, like those from UNESCO, which frame preservation around the ideas of integrity, respect, and intergenerational equity. To be a steward is to recognize that our actions today directly shape what future generations will inherit, learn from, and feel. True stewardship extends far beyond simply preventing a stone from falling. It is a holistic commitment that encompasses three vital dimensions. The first is, of course, the physical preservation of the monuments and their surrounding landscapes, protecting them from erosion, development, and unsustainable visitation. The second is respectful interpretation, ensuring that the stories we tell about these places are accurate, honor their original context, and include the voices of descendant communities for whom these sites remain spiritually alive. The third is fostering inclusive access, not just physical entry, but intellectual and emotional access, so that people from all backgrounds can find meaning and connection in these places. This comprehensive view moves us from seeing a site as a museum exhibit to understanding it as a living part of our shared human narrative. We can translate this ethical imperative into actionable principles. It means advocating for protective policies that prioritize long-term preservation over short-term economic gain. It involves visiting these sacred spaces with mindfulness, following guidelines, leaving no trace, and understanding that our privilege to be there comes with a duty to cause no harm. Stewardship includes supporting archaeological and conservation research, recognizing that science is our best tool for understanding how to care for these fragile places. And crucially, it means educating others, sharing the rediscovered story of the cosmic clockwork to build a broader constituency of people who value and will fight for its preservation. A powerful guiding model for this approach can be seen in places like Uluru in Australia. There, management of the site is a formal partnership between the National Park Service and the Anangu, the traditional owners. This co-management agreement ensures that scientific conservation works hand in hand with traditional knowledge and cultural protocols. The rock is protected not just as a geological wonder, but as a living cultural landscape. This principle of shared guardianship, of blending different forms of knowledge and respect, offers a vital template for how we might care for ancient observatories worldwide, from Stonehenge to Choco Canyon. So we arrive at a final, personal question, one that flows directly from everything we have explored. As a beneficiary of this rediscovered knowledge, as someone who now sees these silent stones not as ruins but as masterpieces of cosmic engineering and human aspiration, what active role will you play? The story does not end with our understanding, it begins with our responsibility. The great celestial clock built by our ancestors has ticked for thousands of years. Our task, our shared ethical imperative, is to ensure it's silent. Stones continue to mark the passage of sun, moon, and stars for thousands of years to come. The next tick of that clock, in a very real sense, is up to us. The stones were never silent, we simply forgot how to listen. Our journey began with a ring of weathered rock and ended by peering into the mind of an entire civilization. We have traced the path from a simple need to predict the seasons to the creation of monumental cosmic clockwork, from the solstice dagger of light at Newgrange to the 18-year lunar rhythm encoded at Callanish. These were not primitive temples, but sophisticated instruments of stone and sky, laboratories of empirical observation, theaters of profound ritual, and anchors for a worldview that saw humanity as an intimate part of a living, patterned cosmos. This rediscovery does more than rewrite a chapter in a history book. It challenges the very foundations of how we define intelligence and science. It asks us to see the patient, multi-generational tracking of celestial cycles not as a precursor to real knowledge, but as knowledge itself, a different but equally valid expression of the human drive to comprehend the universe. Our prehistoric ancestors were not stumbling toward enlightenment. They were already there, speaking a fluent language of geometry, astronomy, and symbolic art that we are only now beginning to translate. The archaeologist Jacquetta Hawkes offered a timeless insight when she observed that every age gets the Stonehenge it deserves or desires. For centuries, we desired a Stonehenge of mythic druids or of brute, superstitious force. Today, we have the tools and the perspective to desire a different past, one understood with humility, scientific rigor, and a sense of shared wonder. We can choose a Stonehenge that represents the pinnacle of Neolithic intellect, a testament to human ingenuity and cosmic curiosity that stands equal to any later wonder of the world. So what does this ancient cosmic clockwork offer to our frantic, illuminated present? It provides a vital counter-rhythm. In an age of digital abstraction and fleeting attention, it reminds us of the power of patient observation, of thinking in generations rather than quarters, and of seeking harmony with natural cycles rather than dominance over them. It invites us to occasionally step outside, to note the shifting point of sunset on our own horizon, and to feel, personally, that we are part of the same grand celestial story. This legacy of connection is not locked in the past, it is a living invitation. If this exploration of sky and stone has resonated with you, if it has shifted your perspective on those silent sentinels in the landscape, then you have become part of keeping this incredible story alive. Consider subscribing to this channel for more journeys into the depths of history, where we continue to uncover the hidden layers of the human experience. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Which of these celestial wonders speaks most powerfully to you? Have you ever witnessed a solstice alignment or felt the awe of an ancient observatory? Your reflections add to this ongoing conversation across millennia. Thank you for watching, for wondering, and for walking this path of rediscovery. May your own observations of the sky, wherever you are, be filled with a renewed sense of connection